Take two. This is Larry Barnett. I'm here to talk to you today about veteran affairs. I'm going to take a little bit of time just to tell you who I am and um, what we're about. We hope that you'll give us a follow off of this video and help us to get enough people so we can do live streaming. Um, I served in the Marine Corps from 1973 to 1978. Was deployed in combat situations 3 times, once in South Vietnam and then twice in Cambodia. I am familiar with the VA system. As a matter of fact, I'm still fighting with them, and that's been well over 15 years since we started that. So we're going to try to get through this and let you know how to get through the muck and the mire. It's called the Veterans Administration. Now, in fairness, the VA has come back a long way from what it was. Um, Trump made a lot of positive changes within the VA, especially within the healthcare facilities, and I'm going to talk to you more uh, about that a little bit later. Now, these videos will be a little bit shorter until we do live stream, but um, I hope that you'll find the information we're going to share with you useful, and that if you have any questions, and by all means, please email me at lbarnett777 at gmail.com. Again, that's L Barnett, Barnett, 777 at gmail.com. You can, may take me about 24 hours to get back to you, but I will return your email. What I want to talk a little bit about today is uh, something that affects civilians and military alike, and that's post traumatic stress disorder, PTSD as it's known. Um, Trauma causes PTSD. Uh, there is no known cure for PTSD, but you can manage it. You can. I'm saying that firsthand because I spent about 3 years in my bedroom and I wouldn't come out. I just, other than go to the bathroom or eat or whatever, it was the only place that I felt safe, you know. Um, Walk around the house, making sure the doors are locked. Uh, Triggers, we're going to talk about those too. What happens when a veteran gets triggered and his PTSD kicks in? It's very difficult sometimes to make a family understand what's wrong. I know for years, right, and right up to when PTSD had a name, that uh, I didn't know what was wrong other than it was PTSD. My wife would ask me, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" I said, "Nothing, damn it, it's just PTSD. I'll get over it." As soldiers, airmen, and sailors, and uh, we're grown folks and we can handle our own problems and we don't need any help. That's kind of the mindset that I had. I'll get through this. I'm a strong person. Hell, I've been in combat before. If I can take that, I can take anything. It's not the case. It's not the case. Trauma wears on the mind. Um, you'll get, I don't want to say you get better. You always have a scar, but uh, you can live. You can have a good quality of life if you want to apply what we're going to talk about in these next few months on this little podcast here. So sit back, enjoy. I'll be telling you just a little bit about myself. Then, when we get to be able to do live videos, we'll have a lot more interaction. So, in the meantime, though, I guess you get to listen to me. Um, PTSD not only affects the veteran, It affects the family as well. It affects the friends as well. Um, my friends had a real bad habit when I would go through very deep depression. Uh, the common term was pull up your bootstraps. You're stronger than that. You can get over this. Well, you don't get over it. At best, you can hope to learn how to live with it through medication, through therapy. Yes, I take the medication. I have to. If not, I'm a raving lunatic. So, PTSD, uh, for me, reared its ugly head in 1975. I was in Saigon in April of 1975. Now, a lot of people will question me and say, well, wasn't the troop withdrawal done in 1972? And yes, it was. But the evacuation of the American embassy within South Vietnam had not been evacuated. So that's what we were there for, to lend support and any kind of services that we could give to the embassy compound. Um, that was my first episode of people who wanted to kill me. So um, they used artillery. At the end of April, towards the end of April in '75, the NBA had surrounded the city of Saigon and was fixing to do an all-out assault to take back the city. Uh, we did evacuate refugees out of Vietnam. I'll tell you straight up, that decision to bring the Vietnamese to America, that decision was not made until the within the last couple days that we were there on the compound. Uh, Many of those people had cooperated with the Americans during their tenure in Vietnam, and they were going to be targets for the North Vietnamese when uh, it was all said and done. So the decision was made to move them and their families out. We opened up the gates of the embassy and let the refugees come in. We staged them. We evacuated them under heavy fire, but um, God was with us. Sure enough, God was with us because we made it out of that. Now, I'm going to be honest, that's the first time I'd ever experienced something called shell shock. And if you're on a Navy ship, the sailors will tell you there's a lot of banging and beating and whatever there is. It sounds like a young war sometimes on a Navy ship, especially on a troop carrier. The Every sound when I got back from Saigon, every sound that I would hear on a bulkhead or anything else would make me think somebody was trying to shell the ship. And that was the first taste of shell shock that I had. That went on for me for, I don't know, probably a week, and it seemed to ease off. We were back in Okinawa at that time. That's where I was stationed at on Camp Schwab. Um, we were in the field doing maneuvers. Now, training is a lot more intense on Okinawa than it was on Camp Lejeune. Camp Lejeune, we couldn't do anything wrong. They were just filmed with all kinds of praise. When we got to Okinawa, we didn't know shit. We learned real quick what combat was about. And during that field operations, we got a call that we were to return to the barracks immediately. Nobody really knew at that point what was going on. They just knew that something was going on. Well, we got back to the barracks and we were told to pack all of our stuff up. We were leaving for Thailand. Um, Questioned about what this was all about was met with kind of quiet. I don't really know what they were trying to accomplish with that, but there was a rumor mill going around that the Cambodians had seized a ship in in international waters, and the United States had made up their mind. Gerald Ford was the president at the time. Him and Henry Kissinger, and who was that other guy who called him a hawk? But anyway, had decided that after we were unceremoniously kicked out of South Vietnam, that we could not afford to let this go unanswered. Um, they took the ship, they removed the crew, and put them on an island called Tang, Tang, and the Khmer Rouge for island is Ko, so it's Kohtang, Ko Tang. Um, so intelligence, well, that was an oxymoron in 1975. Intelligence was very little, if any. It was a small speck on the map. Nobody knew anything about it. Nothing intelligence-wise was passed to us. But the intelligence community dropped the ball here because once uh, South Vietnam was reunited, the Cambodians knew that it was just a matter of time before the Vietnamese uh, invaded them. And that came to pass pretty shortly. I can't remember the exact date, but it wasn't very long after we had left uh, that the Vietnamese did come and take over the country for a while. And then they finally got tired of doing it, just pulled out and gave it back to the Cambodians. The You have to understand the people that we were fighting with at that time, the Cambodian Khmer Rouge, well seasoned, battle hardened, fought all their lives. On the Marine side, the biggest worry that we had before boot camp was how to get gas money to go to the drive in picture show. No combat experience. At least I had Saigon under my belt when the Mayaguez incident happened. Um, so the USS Mayaguez was parked about, I don't know, 15 miles offshore uh, of the island of Koh Tang. And it was decided that we, the Marines, were going to go back and rescue the crew and take the ship back. What wasn't counted on was how well that the Khmer Rouge, I'll call them KR for now, that the KR were well entrenched and dug in, and we didn't know it. Why a flyover wasn't done? And I shouldn't say that. I think our company commander actually flew over the island and seen reinforced gun pits in it, but by then we were already committed to the operation. Captain Davis tells our company Gunnery Sergeant McNamara, that he shows him the emplacements from the little pictures that he took with his 35 millimeter camera, and and that's all we had. Now, intel pictures finally did come just as we were taking off. A lot of good that was going to do us. Troops had already been briefed. Choppers were heated up and on the pad and ready to go, and we went. We went. They had told us that prior to that, that maybe a little sniper fire, and there was a fishing village there, and wouldn't be a whole lot to worry about, but you just knew. Instinct is something that is very powerful when it comes to trauma, because you just felt in your gut, you knew this wasn't going to be a cakewalk. Don't ask me how, but we knew it was going to be a cakewalk. That's the way had approached it. As the initial wave of helicopters um, were approaching Tang, uh, we were trying to get there at dark so we could get set up on the beachhead before daylight. But due to whatever the problems were, we got there right at sunrise. Could hear for miles, could see for miles. We had no element of surprise. They knew we were coming well before we got there, so they had time to get to their positions. As as a battle plan, there were going to be two contingencies. One would land on an east beach and one would land on a west beach. And then we would link up and then sweep the island looking for the crew of the Mayaguez. Unbeknownst to us, they had moved the hostages to another island closer to the Cambodian mainland. Again, there was no intelligence, and we didn't know uh, that they had been moved. So, as daylight approached and we started to back in towards the beach, it is the only time that helicopters have ever been used to do a beach assault, and it was the last time. And let me tell you why. As we turned around to back in, we were supposed to be on the left, and our cover was supposed to be on the right. Somehow we got mixed up, and we ended up vice versa where they were supposed to be. That that's important here to remember because less than 10 seconds later, the helicopter was where we were supposed to be, takes a round in the fuel tank. I seen a bright orange glow inside the helicopter, felt a tremendous amount of heat. Then I looked over my shoulder, and the helicopter next to us was just a ball of flames. They're made of magnesium, same thing matches are, so that gives you an idea how quickly they can burn up um, with jet fuel on them. They made a foam that they would normally put around the fuel tank that would suppress any flames, but that was idea was nixed um, with ideas of uh, the less weight the chopper had, the more personnel that it could carry. Hindsight's 2020. It was a mistake in the long run. I was 19 years old, folks, and I had never seen anything like that in my life. Um, I was only 19 years old, and those are, you're trying to figure out why these people trying to kill me. Well, as we kept trying to back in towards the beach in the helicopter, I looked out the rear and seen a bright white flash and then a crack, and the tail section just folded away. Now, when that happens, the helicopter loses what's called yaw control. The body starts to spin. This way, it's not stable anymore. And don't ask me how that pilot done it, but our pilot landed that thing on the beach without a tail. I didn't even get my feet wet coming out. All right. So, if I tell you the Air Force is my heroes, the Air Force are definitely my heroes. We crack on each other in our branches. We've always done that. But when the shit hit the fan, it's very, very, very well understood why the branches are what they are. We had to have 1,001 things go right for us to get out alive on that island, and 1,001 things did. Don't ask me, had to been God's almighty hand because I figured we were done for. Um, they harassed us all day long. The hit and run tactics, and every time they were very good at fire discipline. And every time it'd be very quiet at times, very, very quiet. But every time a helicopter would approach us to try to extract us off of that side of the island, the tree line would just erupt. There were 23 of us, and we were it for the eastern side of the island. There was 23. We lost 14 men on that helicopter that burned up. Now, folks, I pray that you never have to see nothing like that. Um, but it affected me. Good, however you feel about me, good, bad, indifferent. It affected me emotionally because I couldn't understand what was wrong. I knew I had nightmares. I knew I had an anger problem. I knew I had a discipline problem. And my record up to after May 15th, 1975, my record up to that point was perfect. But I got to a point to where that um, I I couldn't tell what my mind was telling me against what was really happening. A couple uh, times I was put in the psych ward there at Camp Lejeune and treated for depression. At that time, PTSD didn't have a name, and they just treated me for shell shock, battle fatigue, the sorts of things they would normally do, which done no good at all. As after I had gotten out, you'll find that most veterans aren't real good at dealing with crowds or stupid people. They're really not. They don't have when they go in. They just do because of the structure. They have a set. Veterans have a set path that's in front of them, and that's a path that they stay on. Family members that are unschooled on the effects of PTSD are almost as traumatic as the veteran itself. Uh, I get a lot of what am I supposed to do if he or she won't reach out to me? What am I supposed to do? I'm not supposed to do anything. You're supposed to be there and encourage them to understand that, hey, I'm here. If you need me, come on. I'm willing to talk this out with you. Now, folks, there's a lot of healing power just in simple communication. A lot of times, folks, I didn't tell my own immediate family I had been in Southeast Asia for almost 25 years because I didn't know how to explain it. I knew something was wrong. I knew that I had horrible nightmares and what was wrong. This bleeds over into the family unit. Now, we're fortunate today, the resources that the VA has targets the family as well as the veteran. I went for years in my life. I applied for my VA benefits when I got out and they turned me down. So, like a lot of veterans will do, and what the VA hopes you'll do is after they deny you that first time, they hope that you'll go away. So, don't go away. Trust me. Trust me. Do not go away. I'm going to tell you later how to get started with your benefits, and um, we'll be here if and the email's open in case you got any questions at all. We'll get into in depth as we talk more about PTSD and its effect on veterans. We have an entirely brand new generation of young warriors that are coming home and they're dealing with issues that they just uh, never thought that they'd have to deal with. Love, conquers all. I know that combat veterans such as myself that we're tough to live with, and um, it takes a lot of patience. Our wives are very special people. It took me 4 times to figure that out, and I'm not proud of that, but you know, I just, when I'd gotten out, I knew I was having trouble, but I thought, well, if I get married, I have a baby or two, and get me a job that I can focus this, and I can put this crap behind me and go on my merry way. Well, it didn't work out that way. PTSD followed me to the workplace. PTSD followed me to every argument that I had with any wife that I had. PTSD kept me from communicating the way that I wanted, the way that my mind was telling me to communicate, and it just wouldn't cooperate. And you'll see that from me every now and then. I have a tendency kind of to drift off, and normally you have to keep me pointed right in the right direction. But I don't do crowds. I drove a truck for 30 years in New York City. I must have had a death wish because every no driving so and so was exercised in New York City. Boy, that's some crazy drivers over there. But for some reason, I fared well at it. It was almost like a death wish. You would go in and butt puckered and try to get into the city and get out. You ever try to do that with a 53-foot trailer and a long nosed tractor? You'll find that New York City was not designed with big trucks in mind. But the only reason I brought that up is because in the truck, most of the time I was alone and I didn't have to deal with anybody. Um, wouldn't drink while I was driving, wouldn't drink a thing, but when I got home, I made up for it. Now, I wasn't your typical everyday drinker, especially while driving a truck. Um, but on the weekends, I could put away what I didn't do during the week. By the time that my wife got me into the hospital, I was drinking a fifth of bourbon a day, plus taking pills. Um, it was the only way that I knew how to deal with pain, was to just drink it away and get up the next morning sick as a dog and just do the same thing all over again. These things are real. And if your veteran is experiencing any of these symptoms, let them know that you love them. Let them know that there's help out there. Let them know uh, my little podcast here, and encourage them to talk, because talk is just such such a key factor. They'll put you in groups and they'll do one-on-one sessions. So how do you start and how do you deal with it? Well, it's called cognitive therapy. Cognitive therapy will reach into the deepest parts of your soul and cut loose uh, whatever it is that you've been carrying. Try and picture it this way. It may sound gross, and I apologize, but you get a scar or something on your arm and your hand, and you'll pick that scar away until it heals or whatever the case may be. But there'll be a scar there. Cognitive therapy isn't the end all, it is the beginning. The therapist had me write down what happened from April 30th until May 1575. And I've always been kind of a hard nose. I don't cry too much. I'm really ugly when I cry. But cognitive therapy brought that out of me. Survivor's guilt was asking, God, why did 14 people next to me burn to death and it wasn't me? How come I couldn't get to them, God? They were so close to me. Why did I live and they didn't. These are real issues with veterans. Don't ever tell a veteran, reach down and pull your bootstraps up. You can get through this. Don't ever say that because you'll get an earful at the very least. So take the time just to be there. Okay. If you have not done your VA benefits yet, let me encourage you to get that done. The first thing that you do is you get your hands on your medical records and your service records, your complete records. Do not start the process until you have those in your hand. The VA has a tendency to lose things, and they have a tendency to forget things. So the more paperwork that you've got in line, the better off that you're going to be in the process. Um, they have changed the mindset of the VA employee has changed since Trump came into office. They're not rubber stamping denial letters to veterans here in truckloads. They're forced to take a look at the situation. The term they use is compassionately, no matter what it was. Okay? So, who do I go to, Larry? What am I supposed to go to get my medical records? What person do I talk to? Go to the DAV. Most of your veteran service organizations, VFW, the American Legion, um, and those particular sorts of places, all have veteran service officers there. Your county will as well. You take it with a grain of salt. I've seen some um, VSOs that are I dot and T crossed and able to get you your benefits started within 6 months. And then there's others that don't care. They need to find another job. Their job is to help veterans. Now, the reason I say the DAV, I have never heard anything but good things, and they know the process, which is the key thing to remember. Is somebody, whoever that you choose to be your veterans advocate, all right, you need to be honest with them. You be straight up. This was the injury. This is what's happening. This is what is not happening, and make sure that you tell your service officer your entire story. Now, the service officer will get your records for you, okay? And what they would recommend as to whether you should wait or not. My difference was I wasn't going to give the VA any room to say no, we didn't see that, and any way to deny me my benefits. So get those records in your hand first. You get into the system. Once you get into the system, you'll have to fight your way through the quicksand through there. But once you're within the VA system, things are a lot better. Things have changed. There's no more of these death lists that they had months. People waiting to try to get their VA benefits, and uh, they had it's what they called death lists, people that they would not call. You couldn't fire a VA employee until Trump got into office. When Trump got into office, it did create a mass exodus, one way or the other. Okay, so the system, while it's still slow, is still better than what it had when I started. So let me encourage you, you Iraqi freedom vets, you folks that's been to Afghanistan, that's fought the war in the dust and the dirt and the desert. There's somebody that understands. You may not feel that way, and you may think there's no way that anybody could be having the same kind of problems that I'm having. Well, you're wrong. A lot of veterans do. A lot of veterans need that constant assurance that they've done the right thing. It is a lifelong battle, and I'm not going to blow any sunshine up your butt. It's just going to be a battle at times. I still go through times where I'll be depressed. Um, I'll be withdrawn. I'll be angry. So the difference now is my wife is able to see the warning signs. She knows what to do and she knows what not to do. Okay. And that's what you need to do. Reach out to your spouse, to your children, to your parents, and let them know things aren't right. Let them know. All right, folks, we're going to stop there for a little while. I'm trying to learn how to upload videos into Rumble and YouTube and those sorts of places. So I hope you watch this. If you're on Rumble, I hope you give us a follow. We're on every Saturday on Rumble every Saturday at 3 o'clock talking about veterans issues. Uh, we're on the Empty Pockets podcast with James. You search on Rumble, you can find him. He'll be live, and he does live streaming. So uh, we'll be getting into detail a lot more of what options are available to the veteran and what options are available to the family unit because both need work. You need work to be able to understand your veteran. Your veteran needs to be able to reach out to you to say when things are wrong. Okay? We love you. And folks, I hope we can help. That's certainly the goal here. I'm not a VA specialist or psychology. I'm just a dusty old Marine that's about 70 years old now. And I'd like to share a little bit with you before the good Lord takes me home. Have a great day. I'm out.